Today on Mystifiles.
We will be studying the case of the ancient Egyptian pyramids. How were they built in relation to alchemical studies? And who built them? Are they built by aliens, or is it just merely a human craft? What was found in Isaac Newton's documents about the pyramids? And who are the two figures that will be revealed to lead us to the key of answering those questions? All that will be discovered on episode 1 of Mystifiles. Before we start, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and activate notifications. Thank you. Let's dive into the rabbit hole. Thank you for joining Mystifiles, a place where we investigate the mysteries of life. The pyramids of ancient Egypt. An unresolved mystery of ages. A symbol of light projected from heavens, reflecting the human will of achieving the great work. An artistical expression of beauty and majesty that meets the eye. To understand the pyramids of Egypt, you have to know a fact that the ancient Egyptians were the founders of alchemy, known today as chemistry. To give you a small explanation of alchemy, it's a transformational study of matter from lower state to a higher state. Also, it was the study of manipulating matter into different forms. It was used for many purposes, like turning metal into gold, or in spiritual terms, turning the self from a lower state of being to an enlightened state. Alchemy was the main focus for ancient Egyptians. Think about it like the technological revolution today. Back then, they advanced their civilization using this study the same way we advanced ours today through the artificial technology. And there's no question the word alchemy itself comes from the ancient name of Egypt, which is Kemet. Alchemy was brought to the world through the ancient Egyptian god of learning, Thoth, known to the Greeks as Hermes. Ancient Egyptians considered it the most divine study and base for religion and spiritual study. Through alchemy, they believed that matter and spirit are not separate, and to understand one of them, you have to believe in the other. They gave matter a spiritual sense of being, and symbolized elements in spiritual symbols that some are used till modern days in chemistry. The goal of alchemy was the magnum opus, in other words, the great work, which is the outcome of the golden transformation. The pyramids are an example of a magnum opus for the ancient Egyptian civilization, which helped them uncover the riddles of the world. And by the way, speaking of riddles, my book, The Riddle of Life, is available now on Amazon. It's a great book for any seeker of wisdom and inspiration in life. I'll leave the link for you in the description box. People nowadays might believe the pyramids were built by hundreds of thousands of men, cutting the stones, then carving and pulling them from one location to the other. But what if I tell you that is not true? Another group of people lost the faith in the human will and power and decided to accuse alien civilizations visiting Earth and building those pyramids due to the lack of accuracy that modern theories in Egyptology provide. But what if I tell you this is also not true? The answer to this riddle, my friends, lies in the greatest science that ancient Egyptians had back then, which a lot of Egyptologists disregarded the alchemical study in regards to its relation to the pyramids. To understand the pyramids, you must understand the revolutionary science that ancient Egyptians were known best for. They were not known for owning the strongest metallic tools that can cut stones the way they are cut. They were not known for building certain vehicles that can move those stones. However, they were certainly known for the science of alchemy, a total manipulation of matter. The fact that we do not have a great deal of info about alchemy today makes it hard for us to understand the nature of pyramids and ancient Egyptian sciences. But the same thing will happen to our modern technological advancement if it was to be destroyed after thousands of years. The future civilizations will see the computer, for example, as a work of sorcery, if they knew nothing about the science of chips and transistors that forms it. So, if the modern civilization lacks the knowledge of the main scientific revolution of previous civilizations, they will always question and think in terms of riddles. What I will tell you now was always around us, yet we were not able to see. First, let us ask ourselves those questions. How could the ancient Egyptians have cut these stones, which are extremely hard, with only the most primitive of tools? At best, they would have been able to use copper saws, and copper is a softish metal, incapable of hewing the hard limestone blocks from which the early pyramids are constructed. How was it possible to transport the large stones when the wheel had not been yet invented, and there were no pulleys to hoist them into the air? If the stones were carved, as most people believe, where are the fragments of broken stone left over? Limestone frequently splits on being cut. 5 million tons of limestone blocks must have produced millions of broken blocks and fragments, yet not a trace of them has ever been found. To better understand the mystery, I have to introduce two scientists, one from our modern world and second one from the ancient world. The first one is Professor Joseph Davidovits, a French material scientist known for the invention of geopolymer chemistry. In 1983, Professor Joseph Davidovits proposed that the stones in actuality were not carved, yet were man-made through the science of alchemy. Professor Joseph Davidovits proposed that the pyramids and temples of Old Kingdom Egypt were constructed using agglomerated limestone rather than quarried and hoisted blocks of natural limestone. This means that ancient Egyptians used their science of alchemy to create the mixture of the blocks for the Great Pyramid, and they did not pull the stones or raise them through the ramps. This type of fossil shell limestone concrete would have been cast or packed into molds. Egyptian workmen went to outcrops of relatively soft limestone, disaggregated it with the water, then mixed the muddy limestone, including the fossil shells, with lime and tecto-alumino-silicate, forming materials such as kaolin clay, silt, and the Egyptian salt natron, or sodium carbonate. The limestone mud was carried up the bucketful and then poured and packed into molds made of wood, stone, clay, or brick, placed on the pyramid sides. This reagglomerated limestone, bonded by geochemical reaction, thus hardened into resistant blocks. In 1979, at the Second International Congress of Egyptologists, Grenoble, France, he presented two conferences. One set forth the hypothesis that the pyramid blocks were cast as concrete instead of carved. Such a theory was greatly rejected by most of the Egyptologists. The second conference stressed that ancient stone vases, manufactured 5,000 years ago by Egyptian artists, were made of cast, synthetic, man-made hardstone. This brings us to the second figure we had to reveal. His name is Imhotep, who was an alchemist of his time. He invented this formula 5,000 years ago and built and designed the first pyramid in human history, which is the Step Pyramid in Saqqara. He belonged to a closed organization of priests called the School of Mysteries of the Eye of Horus, exclusive guardians of knowledge in the ancient Egypt. Imhotep left plans with temple designs that were built thousands of years after his death, as stated in the hieroglyphs of several temples. His knowledge enabled him to give form to stones and stone for the Egyptians was the symbol of the eternal. The formula that was mentioned by Professor Davidovitz was created originally by Imhotep and used to mold every and each block of the Great Pyramid. As for the people who believe that the pyramids are built by aliens, I'm very sad to announce to you that the pyramids in ancient Egypt are not perfectly built and have a lot of errors. In 2016, a modern-day research team led by engineer Glenn Dash and Egyptologist Mark Lenner detected that the west side of the pyramid is slightly longer than the east side. Although the difference is very slight, the base of the Great Pyramid is not a perfect square, which leaves all the conspiracy alien theories debunked, as whatever humans will build, they will always project their flaws into it. The Great Pyramid of Giza may be a wonder of the ancient world, but it's sadly not perfect. And if those pyramids are truly built by aliens, then those aliens are not advanced enough to a point they cannot build a proper pyramid. And it becomes so meaningless to accuse an advanced alien civilization of doing such thing. Last but not least, in 1880, after 200 years of the modern physicist Isaac Newton's death, some of his scribblings were discovered, and they included info about the pyramids. In those documents, it was revealed that the structure's measurements could help him predict the apocalypse. He also is likely to have hoped that it could provide the proof for his theory of gravity. However, if Newton was to live today and knew that there's an error in the pyramid, that would have totally changed his mind. He did plenty of calculations on the pyramid based on errors, and this applies to any person trying to mislead humans about the pyramids by stating they are created by supernatural beings or they have the key to an apocalypse, where most of those predicted times proved to be merely fake assumptions based on personal deductions and errors. That being said, clear as light, it shows us how alchemy played a huge role in building the stones of ancient Egypt, including their obelisks, which I discussed in details in a previous video titled Secrets of the Ancient Obelisks. I will leave the link for you in the description box. Alchemy was not only the base of ancient Egyptian medicine, but also had huge influence in their architecture. They thought out of the box and were able to draw a magical light in a form of a great pyramid that meets the eye and inspires of how great things can the human will and power achieve. Ancient Egyptians were known for their magic back then, but in reality, it was alchemy disguised as magical spells. The ability to manipulate matter enabled them to baffle humans till our modern day of how magical their civilization was. Not to forget the symbolism that is decoded in the pyramid and their great spiritual significance in the ancient Egyptian world. In the end, it's up to you what you believe or think, but my only advice to you when you're seeking answers is to research from many resources to have a bigger picture and understanding. Lastly, let me know in the comments how do you think the pyramids of ancient Egypt were built, and I will share the best answers in the next video. And if you'd like me to create more content for you, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and activate notifications.